and loud the wind sings in the trees, the sounds of all and ocean wild will surely keep thee from thy sleep. Baloo, Baloo, my wee, wee thing, for thou art doubly dear to me.
For Grand Manan and its nearby islands are nesting grounds for the eider duck and the Arctic tern. Alan Moses got his bird lore not from books, but mainly from personal observation. And the island has a permanent reminder of his remarkable talents. Recently, he donated his entire natural history collection to the Grand Manan High School. A wonderful gift, for the Moses Memorial Museum contains specimens found nowhere else, and none of them bite.
He wanted his collection to be somewhere where people could enjoy it. They always had the idea for the museum, hence buying the property. It wasn't an issue of room in the school. They were just on the walls of the corridor. It was rather interesting, actually, walking up and down Bird Alley. When they dismantled Ellen's shop, there was no museum. So we had to house those birds temporarily. Well, the next 2 or 3 years was acquiring a fairly large amount of funding. And the business of all these centennial grants came up. So we went after a centennial grant, and we got it, we built it, period. Because we had a lot of help. Ferdinand Eisman was an architect, and he donated his expertise. He made it possible for us to get it built.
One of the things that I always tried to do was to tell a story. And the story of Grand Manan is closely connected to the sea. It's an island, the sea's all around us. Everything that you do on Grand Manan, in some way or another, it relates to the sea. So that's the story this museum was trying to tell. Whether it's the birds of the sea, or the shipping of the sea, or the fishing, or the livelihoods. It's the Grand Manan story is a story of the nautical heritage of the island, and the roots are in the sea and around the sea. I'm truly a Grand Mananer, not I come from away. Graduated from Grand Manan High School. Returned to the island every summer while at university, and paid for my university by diving. So. I became curator of the Grand Manan Museum in 1969 when the first curator was Keith Ingersoll, who had really done a super job of setting things up. He moved on to be curator of Canadian history at the New Brunswick Museum in St. John. He left in '69. In the early years of the museum, it was all exhibit work because we started out with very little and we're trying to tell a story. In the late '70s, we undertook a museum expansion. The prime function was to house the Gannett Rock light mechanism, which had been out into the weather on a pedestal in the backyard. Moved that in and built around it. That's the W.B. McLaughlin Marine Gallery, and setting that up was probably a high point in my museum work. I donated quite a number of pieces of shipwreck artifacts. I drew up historic maps, shipwreck maps, these things that were done. But the major publication, I would say, was the Graham and Ann book. I wrote it and illustrated, and Keith Ingersoll helped a lot in editing it. When we started out, we were just getting off the ground. It was a small space. Our major exhibit was the bird collection. It's not nearly as sophisticated as it is now. I think we all worked hard and meant well, but we didn't really know what we were doing, and simply doing our best with what we had.
I started working at the museum in the winter of 1988. I knew that they were looking for a curator, and it was suggested that perhaps I could come and apply for the job. In the beginning, I was able to consolidate the work that had gone before me. So that was a starting point. Some of the exhibits in the time period since they had been done were needing work. So that was the first period that I was here. And then almost immediately afterwards, we started into the extension. And then from there, we went into the building period. Then, when we had the building done, there was all this magnificent space. So what are we going to do with it? Well, now at the back of the building, we had a museum office. We had this wonderful archives with all the proper controls for it, and we had a working area. And so that left the space where the office had been to develop the first museum shop. And then the other space we had, which became wonderful in my period, was the one we had downstairs, the big hall. Because before that, we had had the little nature room that was down in the basement, but it was very cramped. But now, at last, we had this big room in which we could expand and do all sorts of things. So that was very exciting. So one of the things that I was happiest to produce as a program that we started in that room downstairs was using Elmer Wilcox slides of the wildflowers.
I think what initially got me interested in Grand Manan was hearing about it as a child, meeting some Grand Mananers. And then for many years I was living over in Kenya, didn't get back regularly until the summers in the 1990s. And by that time, of course, the museum was well established. And then in 2002, when the museum was looking for somebody and I was more than available, I was terribly pleased because I not only wanted the job, but we had Mother's old house that I could live in. I thought the most successful was the 150 views of Swallowtail, and that was inspired by the Japanese artist Hokusai and his 100 views of Fujiyama. Because it was the 150th anniversary of Swallowtail, it seemed very appropriate. And people were wonderful. We were loaned so many things. And the items included things as small as thimbles and some very large hooked rugs and paintings. So it was a very good range. And almost every aspect of the lighthouse was included, so that was fun.